Tonight, the 133 cardinal electors will process solemnly into the Sistine Chapel, and when will begin um, their efforts to elect the new pope. They will do so in a climate of near paranoia, battered by a ruthless digital age, flinching from cameras and haunted by headlines. And at the heart of this conclave lies not simply a question of who will lead, but who has been systematically eliminated. And one of the candidates there is Cardinal Pietro Parolin, until last week the clear front runner, and the election has already turned into a brutal game of survival, and he has been pilloried. Parolin, Francis's long-serving Secretary of State, began this week with around 40 of the 89 votes needed, apparently. A skilled diplomat, he positioned himself as the continuity candidate, preserving reforms yet softening the sharper edges of the Francis era. And his charm offensive was quietly relentless, apparently years of backroom diplomacy, flattery, and coalition building. For cardinals unfamiliar with Rome, he was the genial insider, offering guidance and by implication a future. But two dark shadows loomed: China and money. And the 2018 Vatican-Beijing deal, widely viewed as capitulation to communist oversight, allowed the party to select bishops in return for vague promises of unity. And under Parolin's watch, the Secretariat of State hemorrhaged hundreds of millions in questionable investments, most infamously the London property scandal, now splashed across front pages, bearing his signature. If Becciu's blame, there's too much dodgy dealing going on, Becciu and Parolin and maybe others, and you think, well, it may all be perfectly innocent, but Becciu has been found guilty of something. It's not quite clear what, and Parolin, his fingerprints are all over other deals. It's not so much that these people, I think, are corrupt, it's that these people are incompetent. And that's not necessarily the image that you want from a future pope. The conclave is not being shaped in whispered corridors alone. It's being fought online in real time, and several times a day a new bombshell seems to appear. One morning it's a leaked memo on Vatican finances, the next it's unsubstantiated claims about blocking sex abuse investigations in Australia and Britain, and the most damaging blow came midweek when Parolin had, it claimed, fainted during a cardinal meeting. Well, he's probably bored. Medical teams apparently were summoned, his blood pressure dangerously high. The Vatican swiftly denied it, fake news they said, but the damage was done. And the source, a war of attribution erupted between conservative American outlet Catholic Vote and scrappy Italian tabloids, and all parties now deny authorship, like criminals caught holding the same smoking gun. What's clear is that the rumour was weaponized. Conservative Americans hate Parolin for the China deal, progressive cardinals distrust him for his opacity and caution, and the collapse narrative handed both camps a stick to beat him with, one whispered concern at a time. Parolin's decline has not created a path, it's created a vacuum. The Chinese appointment of a bishop in Xinjiang without Rome's consent was viewed by some as Beijing's final rebuke to Parolin, and one theory, whispered but persistent, is that they prefer Cardinal Luis Antonio Tagle, the half-Chinese Filipino former head of Caritas, whose emotional charisma plays well in Asia, but not, it must be said, in Rome. He remains a candidate with detractors across the ideological spectrum. Meanwhile, Cardinal Peter Edo of Hungary, a conservative jurist with a reputation for probity and distance, has quietly amassed a following. Reports of backroom deals with Parolin supporters suggest a desperation more than genuine alliance, and Erdo denies any pact, but his block is real. And then emerging from the wings, Cardinal Robert Francis Prevost, an American by birth, Peruvian by mission, and Francis's own prefect for bishops, described as moderate, wise and congenial. He's also been hit by his own allegations about failures to investigate abuse in Peru and shielding a predator priest in Chicago. The source, again, digital whisper campaigns that may not survive scrutiny, but which are designed to wound. Fake news, we might say. The irony is overwhelming. Parolin, architect of the China deal, is now hoisted by his own petard. His financial imprudence, long dismissed as Vatican realpolitik, is now painted as moral rot, and his faint praise for Pope Francis during a major youth mass, too dull, too bureaucratic, has been recast as a failed audition. But perhaps the most sobering thought is this: whoever emerges as Pope will do so under the long shadow of this carnage. The age of Francis was shaped by media adulation. The age after him may be defined by media annihilation. There's no immunity anymore, no untouchables. Every papabile now walks beneath a digital guillotine. The next pope must be, above all, a man of integrity, but integrity itself is now in the eye of the rumour mill. As the conclave begins, the cardinals must not ask who can lead the church, but who can survive it, and whether the next successor of St. Peter will be chosen for his holiness or simply for the absence of scandal so far. So, if Benedict could not quite survive scandal, and there's plenty of suggestions that his resignation was forced rather than a personal decision, and if Parolin, I would say the most wounding accusation against Parolin is his fainting, because no conclave wants to elect somebody who, like John Paul I, is only going to survive 33 days. So I think Parolin's real sin may not be his policies, but his visibility, the inevitable burden of being seen, the burden on his health as well, and his vulnerability. The Sistine Chapel doors will close tomorrow, but the knives have already been drawn, and I think if you're planning on predicting who the next pope will be, you should be looking towards Jerusalem or towards Ukraine, towards a war zone or somebody who has association with that, because I strongly suspect the conclave will be looking beyond the immediate contenders, and will I think Pizzaballa is a good bet, but I think there are others. We've gone through some of them anyway in the past, right? Okay.